Everyone knows the story. Dumbledore places Harry with the Dursleys, and the rest is history. But the night Voldemort vanished at Godric's Hollow, the outcome wasn't inevitable. There were 8 people who could have taken Harry in, and every single one of them would have produced a completely different boy who lived. Today, we're running all 8 timelines. From the version of Harry that becomes the wizarding world's most dangerous dark wizard, to the one who gets Harry killed from his parenting style. And even lifelong Potterheads haven't considered what some of these guardians would have actually done. Starting with Severus Snape. Snape is already at Godric's Hollow that night. He got there seconds too late to save Lily. He's holding her when Dumbledore arrives. Dumbledore moves to take Harry. Snape stops him. Nobody argues with a man in that much pain. Harry grows up knowing exactly what he is. Snape tells him about Voldemort at age 5, about his parents at age 7. He doesn't sugarcoat it. There's no cupboard under the stairs. There is, however, a very strict potions routine by age 9. Snape teaches him occlumency before Hogwarts. Not gently. Harry learns to close his mind the same way Snape learned everything, through necessity and a fair amount of emotional bruising. Year 1, Harry arrives at Hogwarts already able to brew a cure for boils without instruction. He knows Quirrell is wrong within a week. Something's off about the man. His thoughts bleed through, and Harry catches the edge of them. Dark, afraid, subservient. Harry tells Snape. Snape tells no one else. They handle Quirrell quietly. Voldemort never reaches the stone. There's no dramatic confrontation in the chamber below. Dumbledore finds out later, and is deeply unsettled that an 11-year-old and a deeply compromised man solved the problem before he even knew it existed. Year 2. The Diary Horcrux is the real test. Harry recognizes the manipulative pull of the book because Snape has spent years teaching him what manipulation feels like. He hands it straight to Snape, who destroys it with a basilisk fang, without blinking. The Chamber of Secrets stays sealed. Ginny Weasley has an unsettling year, but recovers. Nobody dies. Year 3. Sirius Black escapes Azkaban. This is where it gets complicated. Harry knows about Sirius. Snape has made sure of that, though his version of events is somewhat colored. When Sirius finds Harry, expecting his best friend's son, he finds a boy who has been raised to be suspicious of him. It takes the entire year to undo Snape's framing. By the end, Harry understands the truth. So does Snape, eventually. It costs him something to admit it. Pettigrew escapes anyway. Snape refuses to let a werewolf and a fugitive make the call. The rat gets away. This is the one failure that echoes. Voldemort returns in year 4. The difference this time, Harry can shield his mind completely. The dreams don't come. The connection doesn't bleed. Voldemort spends 2 years trying to read Harry and gets nothing back. Snape's double agent work is more effective because Harry knows about it and covers for him. They make a genuinely terrifying team. The war is shorter. Harder in places because Harry is colder and more tactical than canon Harry ever was. Some of the impulsive heroics that saved lives in canon don't happen. Some people die who didn't have to. But Voldemort falls in year 7, same as ever. Harry walks into the forest because Snape told him the truth about the Horcrux years earlier. No dramatic reveal, no shock. Just a boy who'd been prepared his whole life for the thing he had to do. Harry is alive. The war is won. He is also, by most measures, a more troubled human being than canon Harry. Functional, brilliant, extremely good at occlumency, not great at warmth. But Voldemort is dead. The Horcruxes are destroyed, and Snape, for once in his life, did something right, for the right reasons. So, Snape raised a soldier. But what if the man who actually had a plan got there first? Dumbledore. Dumbledore doesn't leave Harry with the Dursleys. He takes him to Hogwarts. The greatest wizard alive, raising the boy who lived in the safest castle in Britain. What could go wrong? Nothing really. Until year 5. Harry grows up at Hogwarts. He knows every secret passage by age 6. He's reading Advanced Transfiguration by 8. Dumbledore is a fond and brilliant presence, and an almost entirely absent parent. He is always managing something. The Order, the Ministry, the dozen other crises a man of his reputation accumulates. Harry is raised, in practice, by McGonagall, Flitwick, and the castle itself. He is also, quietly, raised with purpose. Dumbledore never lies to him.
Are you sure about that?
But he selects truths carefully. Harry grows up knowing he has a destiny. He just doesn't know the full shape of it. Year 1. There is no Mirror of Erised moment. Harry already knows what he wants. No Fluffy, no trapdoor adventure. Quirrell is caught by Dumbledore before the stone is at risk, because Dumbledore was paying attention this time, not orchestrating from a distance. Year 2. The Chamber of Secrets opens. Harry, who has spent years in the library, identifies the basilisk from the symptoms. He also identifies the diary as a Horcrux, because Dumbledore has been laying groundwork for years. He confronts Riddle in the chamber and wins. Same as canon. He is 11 years better prepared for it. He hands Dumbledore the diary. Dumbledore goes very still. Then he smiles and says, "Well done," and doesn't explain why his hands are shaking. The difference is year 5, the prophecy. Dumbledore tells Harry the full truth at 15, instead of waiting for the end of the year, because Harry, raised by him, has learned to read omission. He simply asks for the truth. Dumbledore answers. Harry doesn't fall apart. He processes it the way Dumbledore processes everything, quietly, thoroughly, and with a plan forming before the conversation is over. The Horcrux hunt is faster. Harry has resources, allies, and a headmaster personally invested in the outcome. 4 are destroyed before year 7 begins. The war never fully materializes. But here's the problem. Harry, raised by Dumbledore, is brilliant and capable and does everything right. He also has no friends. He grew up apart from other children, shaped by the most manipulative mind in the wizarding world, pointed at a target since before he could walk. He wins the war. He just doesn't quite know what to do with the rest of his life. Voldemort defeated. Casualties are significantly reduced. Harry's alive, successful, respected, and profoundly lonely. Dumbledore raised the perfect weapon. He just forgot to raise a person. Now, flip it. What if Voldemort got to him first? Let's say the killing curse rebounds. Voldemort, instead of vanishing entirely, retains enough presence to stop himself from dying. A fragment of his soul, a shred of will, and a 1-year-old child in the rubble. He looks at Harry. He thinks, this child destroyed me. This child is more powerful than I understood. He takes him. Welcome to the worst adoption in wizarding history. Harry grows up as Tom Riddle's project. Not a son, not a weapon, quite. More like a thesis. Voldemort, in whatever fragmented, half-living state he occupies, is fascinated by the boy who survived. He pours everything into Harry's education. Dark magic, Parseltongue from infancy, the theory of Horcruxes before Harry loses his first tooth, the philosophy of blood purity, explained with the cold logic of a man who genuinely believes it. By 11, Harry Potter is the most educated dark wizard to enter Hogwarts since Tom Riddle himself. The Sorting Hat takes one look inside his head and quietly places him in Slytherin before Harry can say a word. It considered Ravenclaw briefly. Then, it saw what was underneath all that knowledge and made the decision quickly. Harry is brilliant, isolated, and completely certain of his own superiority. He has no particular interest in making friends. He makes allies. He also has, buried somewhere underneath a decade of careful conditioning, a scar that still hurts. Voldemort, now strengthening in the background, uses Harry to clear the path. Harry opens doors, manipulates teachers, removes obstacles. He's doing it willingly, and occasionally, in quiet moments, wondering why it doesn't feel like enough. Year 3. He meets a prisoner in Azkaban's records, his father's best friend. He investigates out of intellectual curiosity and finds out the truth about his parents' death. He finds out what Voldemort did that night. For the first time in his life, Harry has something to be angry about that Voldemort didn't put there. The break comes in Year 4, the Triwizard Tournament, the graveyard. Harry watches Voldemort take physical form and doesn't feel triumph. He feels nothing. And in that nothing, something shifts. Harry doesn't defect cleanly. It's not a movie moment. It's slower, a withdrawal, a withholding. Information passed sideways. A connection quietly remade with Dumbledore, who has been watching Harry for years with the specific dread of a man who made a catastrophic error in 1981. Voldemort, who built this boy from nothing, never considers that he might have given him the tools to be a threat. He should have. The war is longer, darker. Harry fighting Voldemort from the inside is more dangerous than anything canon imagined, but also costs more. He wins. He is not, by the end, entirely recognizable as the boy in the crib. Better than Voldemort. Worse than he should have been. That's the darkest the timeline gets. So let's go to the opposite end. A house with too many kids, not enough money, and more love than anyone knew what to do with. Dumbledore owls the Weasleys the morning after Halloween 1981. Arthur and Molly already have 4 boys and 1 on the way. Molly says yes before Dumbledore finishes the sentence. Harry Potter moves into the burrow. He grows up with noise and chaos and hand-me-down jumpers and the firm conviction that he is loved. He calls Arthur and Molly Dad and Mum by age 3. He and Ron are inseparable. He also grows up knowing he's famous. The Weasleys don't hide it, but they don't let it mean anything inside those walls. You're Harry, one of ours. End of. Year 1, Harry and Ron arrive at Hogwarts together. They've been best friends for 10 years. The dynamic that took a troll and a chess set to build in canon already exists on day 1. The Philosopher's Stone, Quirrell, the Trapdoor, Harry, Ron, Hermione, plus an extra year of real friendship between the first 2. The confrontation goes the same, except this Harry has never had to wonder whether he's worth protecting. He walks into that chamber knowing he is. Year 2, the Weasley dynamic changes things completely. Ginny's possession by the diary is noticed earlier. Harry and Ron are watching for something wrong with her, because that's what brothers do. The diary is identified in January. Ginny gets help before the chamber nearly kills her. Tom Riddle never gets to say goodbye. Year 3, a rat with human thoughts is not exactly subtle when you've grown up in a house full of people who notice things. Ron, who has lived with Scabbers for 12 years, has always half known something was wrong. With Harry watching too, Pettigrew is caught by Christmas. Sirius is cleared. He's free. Harry now has a godfather and 7 years of Weasley family behind him. He is, by most metrics, the best adjusted Harry on this entire list. The war is where it unravels. Harry, raised by Weasleys, is loved. Completely, unconditionally loved. And that's exactly the problem. In canon, Harry walks into the forest because he has made peace with dying. He's been half ready for it since he was 11. Neglect does that. It quietly removes the terror of loss before the real losses arrive. This Harry hasn't made peace with anything. He has a family. He has a home he wants to come back to. He has something to lose. He goes into the forest anyway. He's brave enough for that. But he hesitates. Just for a second. 1 second of wanting to live. Really wanting it. The way only people who've been properly loved ever do. Voldemort doesn't hesitate. Harry Potter dies in the forest. The Horcrux inside him is destroyed. Voldemort survives. The war doesn't end. It gets worse. The Weasleys gave Harry a family, but what about the woman who almost stopped Dumbledore leaving him on that doorstep in the first place? McGonagall was there the night Dumbledore left Harry on the doorstep. In canon, she watches. She says nothing. She leaves. In this timeline, she doesn't leave. I've been watching the Dursleys all day, Albus. I won't pretend I'm comfortable with this. She takes the child home. Harry grows up in a flat in Edinburgh. Orderly. Precise. Books everywhere. McGonagall is not warm in the way Molly Weasley is warm. She is consistent, which turns out to be worth more. Harry always knows where he stands. He always knows the rules. He always knows he's expected to do better. He does better. She tells him about his parents honestly. She tells him about Voldemort matter-of-factly. She does not catastrophize. She does not pretend. By the time Harry is old enough to be afraid of the truth, he has already heard it. Year 1 is significantly different for one reason. McGonagall is his guardian and his professor. The Sorting Hat places him in Gryffindor the same as ever. Harry has never once failed to be brave when it mattered. But he sits in Transfiguration watching his mom teach and maintains a diplomatic face about the homework expectations. Quirrell, the stone, the trapdoor. Harry's logical, thorough, and doesn't take unnecessary risks. He also tells McGonagall everything before attempting the chamber, because he was raised by someone who made clear that reckless heroism is for people who haven't thought it through. McGonagall descends into the chamber herself, dispatches Quirrell, retrieves the stone, and gives Harry a Nimbus 2000. Year 3 is where it gets interesting. Sirius Black. McGonagall never believed he was guilty. She was at school with him. She had 12 years of suppressed doubt. With Harry in her house, the investigation is faster and more legitimate. Sirius is cleared by April. Pettigrew is caught. This is the one timeline where Pettigrew doesn't escape. No Pettigrew means no information leak to Voldemort's supporters. His return in Year 4 is delayed. Crouch Jr. still manages it, but later, with less infrastructure. The war, when it comes, finds Harry 20% better prepared and 80% less traumatized than his canon self. He still walks into the forest in Year 7. McGonagall tried to prepare him for it. She knew. Not everything, but enough. She said goodbye the right way. That matters more than it should. Best long-term outcome of anyone on the list. Harry's disciplined, capable, and emotionally stable. McGonagall ages about 20 years faster than expected. She considers it a fair trade. McGonagall is the most sensible guardian on this list. Hagrid is the least. He also already had Harry for 12 hours before handing him over. So what if he just didn't? Hagrid was the one who carried Harry away from Godric's Hollow on the night of Halloween. He had him for hours. In canon, he hands him straight to Dumbledore. In this timeline, he doesn't quite get around to it. Harry grows up next to the Forbidden Forest, and that's where his education happens. Not in books, not practicing spells, out there, learning how creatures think, how they move, what they need. By 11, he can call a hippogriff in seconds. He understands thestrals, nifflers, blast-ended scroots better than anyone alive. He is Hagrid's greatest student. But he cannot duel to save his life. Literally. Hogwarts exposes the gap immediately. His classmates have been practicing basic spellwork at home for years. With wands, with parents, with structure. Harry has been feeding flobberworms and talking to thestrals. He is 2 years behind by Christmas of year 1. He catches up slowly, but never fully. Year 4, the Triwizard Tournament. In canon, Harry survives through a combination of luck, raw power, and the kind of stubbornness that only comes from being told you're worthless your whole life. This Harry doesn't have that edge. The tasks expose him. The dragon in the first task. He can read it, calm it almost, but he can't outfly it the way canon Harry can. He scrapes through. The graveyard. Voldemort returns. The duel happens, and Harry, undertrained, underpowered, facing the most dangerous dark wizard in a century, doesn't produce the spell that saves him in canon. The Priori Incantatem connection never forms the way it needs to. He escapes, barely, with help from the echoes, but only just. This can be his plot armor moment. From that point on, the war exposes the ceiling on his power repeatedly. He can't lead. He can't inspire the way a powerful wizard inspires. He can barely hold his own in the duels that matter. Dumbledore's army never forms. In canon, it exists because Harry has something to teach. Real combat experience. Real power, real credibility. This Harry doesn't have any of that. When Umbridge takes over and the moment arrives, Harry stands in front of a room of students who need someone to follow and has nothing to give them. They don't train. They don't organize. They arrive at the war unprepared. The Battle of Hogwarts is a massacre. Without a trained resistance, without the network of students who fought alongside Harry in canon, Voldemort's forces walk through Hogwarts in a single night. The Order holds for mere hours before falling. Harry faces Voldemort in the wreckage and loses. Just the most powerful dark wizard alive against a boy who spent his childhood learning which berries bowtruckles prefer. Voldemort wins. The wizarding world falls. The most complete defeat on this list. Hagrid didn't raise a dark wizard or a broken one. He raised a wonderful, warm, completely underprepared one. Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes you also need to have done your homework. Now, time for Sirius Black to raise Harry. Sirius Black is 21 years old, freshly traumatized, and raising the son of the man he just watched die. Dumbledore objects. Sirius doesn't move. Harry comes home with him. The first problem is immediate. Half the wizarding world thinks Sirius betrayed the Potters. No trial, no formal clearing. Just rumors that follow Harry through childhood like a second shadow. He grows up defensive in a way that reads as aggression. He makes enemies before he makes friends. The second problem is Sirius himself. He loves Harry completely, but love without structure produces a specific kind of child. No bedtimes, no rules, no consistency. Sirius never processes 1981. There's always a toddler, then a boy, then questions he isn't ready for. Harry becomes the emotional anchor of the household at age 7. He learns to read Sirius's moods before he learns to read properly. Hogwarts. Year 1. Harry hexes Draco in the corridor before the first week is out. Sirius laughs when he hears about it. Harry never learns that there are consequences for losing his temper, because Sirius never learned that either. Year 3. The Shrieking Shack. Pettigrew is caught. Sirius, who has waited 12 years for this moment, doesn't hand him to the Dementors. He kills him, in front of Harry, in seconds. Sirius goes to Azkaban. Harry is 13, completely alone and angrier than he has ever been. Sirius breaks out with the other dark wizards. While Sirius is hiding, he and Harry have a secret relationship. They love each other, but can't find their way back to what they were. The shape of what Harry witnessed sits between them permanently. Year 5. The Department of Mysteries. The trap works the same as canon. Harry goes, Sirius follows. But the Sirius coming out of Azkaban 6 months earlier isn't the Sirius who went in. He's slower. He makes a decision he wouldn't have made before. He goes through the veil. Harry wins the war, hunts the Horcruxes, walks into the forest, defeats Voldemort. He does everything right. He just does it empty. There's one more man who had a claim on Harry Potter. Quieter, sadder, and carrying more than anyone should have to. Lupin takes Harry because nobody else is left standing. No income, no home, a condition that turns him into something unrecognizable once a month. Dumbledore raises an eyebrow. Lupin raises Harry. First consequence, Harry grows up knowing about the wolf. Not at 11, not as a shock, as a Tuesday. Once a month, the door locks, Lupin disappears, and Harry learns early that the people you love contain things they can't control. He doesn't fear it. He organizes around it. By age 8, he's making the monthly potion prep a routine. This builds a boy who is calm under pressure, hyper-observant, and pathologically self-sufficient. He doesn't ask for help, ever, because the most important person in his life spends half his energy apologizing for existing. Harry absorbs that, deeply. Year 1, Quirrell. In canon, Harry stumbles into the mystery. This Harry notices Quirrell immediately. Lupin taught him to read people the way you read dangerous creatures. Something's wrong with the man. The stammer, the flinching. Harry tells no one and investigates alone, because that's what he does. He gets to the stone first, handles it, doesn't tell Dumbledore until it's over. Dumbledore files this away with great concern. Year 2. The chamber opens. Harry identifies the basilisk from Lupin's creature compendium. He moves fast, acts alone, saves Ginny. Same outcome as canon, achieved entirely without asking anyone for assistance. The pattern is forming. Harry is extraordinarily capable and completely isolated by choice. Year 3. Lupin arrives at Hogwarts. Harry sits in the first dark arts lesson performing perfect neutrality while his classmates meet a boggart for the first time. Lupin gives the same look back. Sirius is innocent. Pettigrew escapes. The wolf takes over at the worst possible moment, same as canon. Lupin resigns. Disappears for 6 weeks without adequate explanation. Harry is 13, completely unsurprised. This is what he always expected from the people he loves. That's the damage. Not cruelty, consistency of abandonment dressed as protection. Year 5. Dumbledore's army. Harry teaches it, same as canon. But his version is grimmer. No warmth, pure function. His students learn to fight. They don't particularly learn to trust each other. Harry doesn't model that. The war arrives. Lupin fights. Harry fights. They are two of the most capable people in the Order, and they communicate almost entirely in tactical shorthand because neither of them has ever learned the longer version. The Horcrux hunt. Harry goes alone where he can. Hermione physically prevents him from cutting Ron and her out entirely. It works. Barely. 3 people who should be a unit operating at 60% capacity because one of them never learned that needing people isn't a vulnerability. The forest. Harry walks in alone, uses the stone, sees Lupin. In canon, this moment breaks him open. Here, it just confirms what he always knew. The people he loves appear briefly, and then they're gone. He hands the stone back to the forest floor and keeps walking. He defeats Voldemort. Of course he does. He's been preparing for it his entire life, quietly, alone, without telling anyone his plan. Voldemort falls. The war ends. Harry survives, wins, stands in the wreckage of Hogwarts, surrounded by people celebrating, and feels, very distantly, like he's watching it through glass. If you made it this far, drop a comment. Tell us which Guardian gives Harry the best shot. Tell us which one you'd pick. The answers are going to be wrong, and we want to hear them anyway. And if you want to stay in the wizarding world, we just broke down every spell the movies got completely wrong. The ones they changed, the ones they butchered, and the one that was never supposed to look like that. Ever. Links on screen now. See you there.